Hi everyone, this is Josh, and there's a lot to go over here and unpack, so let's get started. Today we're going to talk about Am I a Racist? This film was directed by Justin Falk, and it features Matt Walsh. Matt Walsh is a political commentator for the Daily Wire, a conservative news outlet that recently launched their own streaming platform, Daily Wire Plus, I think like 2 or 3 years ago. The only thing I've seen from it is Run, Hide, Fight, which is basically just a shitty die-hard ripoff about a student taking on a bunch of school shooters. In this documentary, he pretends to be a DEI expert and tries to expose people he feels are race grifters, people who basically make a living off of white guilt, and teaching people for large sums of money how not to be racist. I'll be upfront and let you know that I have no love for Matt Walsh or the Daily Wire. I feel like a lot of their brand is just saying obviously inflammatory things to get clicks and attention. I also feel like they're guilty of a lot of the same things they complain about in this film, which we'll get into a little bit later. Normally a film with this type of Borat setup where there's someone playing a character and trolling to see what reactions or what crazy things they can get other people to say in these very awkward scenarios is right down my alley. I love this type of humor, and even though Matt Walsh is not nearly as talented or committed to the bit like, say, Sacha Baron Cohen or a Nathan Fielder is, he has decent deadpan delivery and decent timing, which works pretty well for some scenes. The whole bit where he gets Robin DiAngelo to give the black producer of the film $30 as a way of paying reparations was pretty clever and amusing. I think it's totally fair to investigate how effective or ineffective DEI initiatives or diversity consultants and their strategies are for creating a more inclusive environment. But I also question the true intentions of making a film like this from this group of people who seem more interested in making a piece of entertainment that panders to its base than having anything really profound to say about racism and DEI grifters. This film has been self-described by Matt Walsh as a mockumentary in the style of Borat. I can see the similarities, but I don't think Matt Walsh understands why that film is so good. Borat managed to be hilarious and still make a deeper point about how his character's absurdly racist and misogynistic behavior allowed the people around him to lower their guard and say similar offensive things, painting this picture of certain subcultures of America and exposing how little they know and how confused they are about foreigners and their culture. This film doesn't come anywhere close to what Borat achieves on a comedic level because Matt Walsh doesn't have the same level of commitment and curiosity that Sacha Baron Cohen does to the character he plays. None of these sketches come close to some of Sacha Baron Cohen's best moments, like that time he got Jason Spencer, a representative of some state, to scream the N-word at the top of his lungs. I feel like we don't learn a whole lot about the people Matt Walsh interviews. There are definitely some interesting comments made by some of the people he talks to, like the First Lady, who says racism makes up the fabric of our society. But before we even get the chance to hear her expand on that idea, the interview ends. The whole point, or I guess joke, about this scene is him setting up this logic trap for the lady involving Moana and how it's confusing that it could be deemed racist for his daughter to watch nothing but white princess movies, but it could also be perceived as racist for her to dress up as the character Moana for Halloween or something. I understand the contradiction, but we don't gain any insight to why this lady may have this possible contradiction, and that's because Matt doesn't want to go any deeper. He just wants to get the gotcha moment and move on. The same thing happens when he attends a meeting led by a grief counselor. Instead of engaging with what she and the others have to say, he just interrupts her constantly, and that's apparently supposed to be the joke, him just being a nuisance the whole time. I'm fine if a film just wants to prank people the whole time, but it feels toothless when you're supposed to be telling me how absurd these DEI experts are, but you're not even letting them talk. If what they're saying is so absurd, give them the rope to hang themselves. The comedy from this film honestly doesn't come from the critique of how absurd DEI or anti-racism is. It's from watching these people have extraordinary patience as they walk Matt through a topic that he's not actually interested in learning about. And I think his disingenuousness, or the film's disingenuousness, doesn't just come through in Matt's demeanor, it also shows up in the actual filmmaking. It's very apparent in this scene how reliant this film is on the editing to make an otherwise really boring scene feel more comedic. Like, this scene is cutting constantly. When you're cutting like this, it kind of robs us of that awkward tension. There's like 4 times where we just get scenes of like Matt Walsh doing something really mundane, like reading White Fragility and telling us what it's about, or, you know, watching TV in his hotel room thinking about racism, or looking out the window and thinking about racism. There are times where I feel like the film botches moments that should be very entertaining and amusing, like the whole race to dinner thing, where basically a bunch of women pay a lot of money to these 2 other women to kind of call them out and say very aggressive, like inflammatory things. Like at one point they say that, you know, the Republican Party, it's full of Nazis. Like, that's it. Clearly a ridiculously dumb statement. Because Matt can't attend this meeting, he pretends to be a waiter, and the comedy comes from him interrupting the scene constantly by dropping plates and doing other slapstick antics. This scene is honestly pretty boring. This is another time where like the film is just cutting constantly to try to make it seem more exciting than it actually is. For a movie as scripted as this, it feels very narratively unfocused. It just feels like a lot of half-baked bits put together that don't connect really well. The movie goes on this weird tangent at one point where they want to discuss how a lot of hate crimes are overreported or not real hate crimes. They do a reenactment of Jussie Smollett's fake account of being mugged by 2 MAGA supporters wearing MAGA hats in Chicago in the middle of winter. Like, yeah, it's kind of funny, but I don't know what that has to do with DEI experts being frauds. The whole hate crime discussion doesn't work super well because they're using Jussie Smollett as a placeholder for this phenomena that a lot of hate crimes are just false, but the guy went to prison for doing this, so isn't that just evidence of how difficult it is to fake a hate crime? The other thing that doesn't make sense is that, like, you're making fun of this guy for, you know, using being victimized by racism as a way to be seen or get attention, but the Daily Wire does this all the time. I'm embarrassed to say this, but back in the day, I actually used to listen to Ben Shapiro's podcast a good bit, and it became very clear to me over the years that he and Matt Walsh and a lot of the other people on the Daily Wire love to fearmonger about anti-white racism, how people are trying to trans the kids, or how immigrants are replacing white people, or how the elites don't care about you. Their whole business model is validating people's negative feelings towards others so that they can rile up their base in the hopes that they'll buy their books or get a subscription to Daily Wire Plus. They use this same strategy to market this film, complaining about Reddit users who talked about stopping the movie from playing at the theater they worked at. I obviously don't condone that behavior, but I also don't think it's indicative of any serious or greater movement to shut this movie down, especially when, over its opening weekend, it made $4.8 million, which is, in 2024, pretty good for a documentary. Matt has also complained about no critics reviewing his film on Rotten Tomatoes because they hate him, because they disagree with him or something. It's just all part of the victim narrative that, oh, they're out to get us and we need to stop them by you watching my movie. Yeah, I guess the elites are doing a terrible job of shutting your film down. Another weird choice this film makes is showing us the amount of money each person got paid to do an interview with Matt. I'm sorry, have you or Ben Shapiro never done a speech or an interview that you got paid for? What is the difference between them getting paid for their opinion versus you getting paid for your opinion? I want to reiterate that there's nothing wrong with making a film like this, and while I do think this movie is able to be entertaining and funny sometimes and make a good point every now and again, it's mostly a messy, overscripted bore devoid of any effort to explore the thing it's criticizing. Maybe your next film can be called Am I Going to Put Effort Into It? I'm going to give Am I a Racist a 1.5 out of 5. Thanks for watching this review, guys. I really appreciate it. Let me know what you thought about this film in the comment section below. If you hate me because I shitted on your favorite boy, Matt, then that's fine. That's fine. Hit the like button if you like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications so you can know when I drop the next video. Until the next video, I'll see you next time.